Saturday, first semi-dry day, really. Came out this morning and opened up all the sheds, including that one. Try and let them dry out a bit. Came through to the laundry area and this back area that we want to try and renovate. Opened up the windows to try and let that air out. That's the sheeting I've got to pull down, that stuff, especially there. The old chimney is just up above that, where it used to come into the wall. I'm going to go out and check the silicone against the outside. The water was just running down the bricks there, so it's either coming down through the chimney or around where the chimney comes through the brickwork. So I've got to get all this out of the way too. I used to have this down here from before I did all my waterproofing. On inspection so far, the old shed with all the building materials in is pretty unscathed. The one that I put up for storing some stuff in, it did get a leak in the top from driving rain. The work shed that I put the new roof onto, no apparent leaking through the roof, but loads of water through the bottom, which I expected. In this one, I've spotted ceiling popped a bit off the nails from expansion, contraction with all the heat and the cold that we've suddenly had. And just here, I can see where the MDF here has puffed out a little bit, because that doesn't really look like, doesn't just look like a bad, like from when I was doing the joints, and it's popped off the framework just there. And I was thinking, like, I know I sealed this up really well, but when I got to look up on the top, you see where the ridge has just popped up there, where I had no screws in it. I reckon we got we were getting really driving rain, and it's just sort of whipped up under there and then run down over my flashing that I had up in here, which goes down and then down the side, so it's sort of popped through somehow. That's not a major concern. This is just a storage shed. Something to look at a bit later is all the bamboo that's popping up again all the way down there. They're skinny at the moment, but I'll have to get at them. And all the grass that's exploded. Well, sunshine was short-lived. 4:20. That just suddenly opened up. I've been ripping stuff down, cutting it in half, throwing it up in the trailer to get rid of. Oh, mate, there's my saw. And I heard thunder, and then boom. As well as working up on the chimney and capping that off, but I don't think water was coming in. I've basically pulled down this corner of the house, and that's windows. So I've taken, like there's the soundboard. I've taken all the soundboard off there, the particle board that was there, all the soundboard that was up in the ceiling. And if we get heavy enough rain, I might be able to see where some of that water's coming through. 4:15, all finished. Just enough to be inconvenient, not enough to help with anything. So I've pulled all this board off and all the trim that was around the windows, and I've discovered where a good portion of this water was coming from, because you can see all of this streaking on the wall. There was a piece of timber along here holding the bottom of the soundboard. It was absolutely soaked, and you can see all these runs down. This one in particular, right here. Notice the brickwork here. Just below the window is this sill of bricks facing upright. So if we look outside, it's just a flat surface with this window set into the space. There's a header bar, steel header bar, and then the window is just set in place. And they've got silicone all the way along this frame, so they basically stop water from dripping through under the frame. Not thinking that water is going to seep down through mortar, especially if there's gaps in it, and especially when that outside sill is an absolutely flat surface. It could even be leaning backwards slightly towards the window. So I'll have to do something on the outside to basically get it to slope out. I haven't got a lot of room to play with because the window frame is, hang on, I'll run outside. You can see this outdoor sill all here. And you actually see that there's a gap right here, and a gap here, and over here, a little bit of a gap underneath, spots where it can run down in between, a little bit here. So I've basically got 10 mil, 3/8 of an inch up to this. So what I could do, I'd want to seal all this and make sure that it can run outwards. So I could cork all the way along there and maybe build a little bit of a sill with mortar or render all along here, kind of like where you can see this rendering on the side of the wall, and you can see it sort of up there. Added a waterproof render up above ground level. I then painted it with a few coats of pond paint. I could probably do that just here, just to get a slope away from the window. And then do like what I've done on the inside here, where I've sealed the inside of this wall. I've still got to do that area there. But on this wall here, force some silicone into here, into any of these gaps, and then just completely paint this whole surface with pond liner, because that the stuff that I bought will resist pressure from the other side. So if there's water on the outside, it won't come through. That's the theory. So if I can, fix the slope on that window and fix this, because that's where a lot of that water's coming through. Which makes sense that this is where there was a lot of the water, right at the bottom of the basement. All right. So here's my progress for this weekend. Pulled out all of this soundboard stuff. It's like 2-inch thick compressed straw that this whole area had because the previous owner had a little recording studio down here. But I pulled all that out. Pretty sure I said it before, but just in case I didn't.
I discovered that these bricks here form a ledge on the outside. They're just flat. The rain's been beating in from that side in these storms we've had, and the water was just running down through the grout and then running down the inside of this wall.
So all the water that was in here, I thought might have been from that chimney, but on checking the chimney, it looked completely dry on the inside. It still had soot in it from when it used to be used as a chimney. There's been a fair bit of the water coming in under the window. I found some spots where there was cork missing from there, so I've corked it from the outside, squirted it right in all through the grout lines. I went through here and filled up any big gaps in the cork in the grout with cork. And then once that was dry, I basically painted this whole entire area with the pond paint on this side of the house. Ground level's about here maybe, and then it just slowly slopes up. So on the outside, that's where I actually rendered with a cement render that had waterproofing built into it. So I dug right down to the very bottom of this foundation, did all that on the outside, rendered it, and then did several coats of this pond paint all along the outside and across the front of the house. Put some new drainage in and that sort of stuff. So when I saw water in here, I was really quite surprised. But then on investigating, discovered that, yeah, it was beating in through the underside of this window and dripping down the wall. This is just the first coat. When that's dry completely, I've got to do a second coat. I've got to buy more of the stuff that I'm using. Not an ad, but I went down to Bunnings and they didn't have this particular one in. So this is a heavy duty waterproofing, flexible, 100% waterproof, can be immersed in water, prevents corrosion. So it's actually used for waterproofing roofs, like metal roofs and that sort of stuff as well. Prevents efflorescence and mold, so it stops the lime, I think, in the brickwork coming out. Prevents mold from coming through, and you can actually use it inside water tanks and that sort of stuff to waterproof the inside, because once it's water based and once it's dry, completely safe apparently. But it's been great. That's what I used in the laundry. Like, that side of the house is a high side, and where you can see the manhole, the ground on the other side of that is maybe just below that height, but it does drop maybe down to about, you can see the joint, you can see the difference between the baser blocks and then the bricks. That's that bottom ground level. The dirt doesn't actually sit against that side, but that's an area that I need to basically waterproof as well to prevent moisture from coming through to this room, just so that it can be used a bit more rather than just being a storage space. Pulled down all the stuff that was up here, all the old, so you can see how thick that stuff is there. It's as heavy as anything, so it's all just sitting in the trailer at the moment waiting for me to take it away. But that was all up here and across there, and yeah, got most of that down. Still a bit to get down, but I've got to move some stuff first because it's really heavy when it drops. It has been liquid nailed to the joists and then screws. So once the screws come out, it just sort of hangs there and you've got to sort of rip it down. And a full sheet is very heavy. Half sheet, I usually cut them in half, throw them into the trailer, run saw through them. It's now 7:30. I'm glad I had enough of that left to be able to do this whole wall along here. I've sort of come around the corner a bit as well, just because that's facing the outside. This will all be framed out and sheeted properly, insulated, etc. Just finished another afternoon class with year 11. Only about half the class showed up this time. Went through using the drop saw over there. Was about to go into the bandsaw and I just thought I don't want to rush that. So we prepared some pieces. We're going to be doing, so far we've done biscuits, we've done dowels, we've done mortise and tenons. Now next one, we're going to be basically doing a lap in the corner, a bridle joint in the corner, and we're going to do a halving joint. I started getting them to mark out the bridle joint, and that's the one I'm going to show them how to use the bandsaw to cut out, because they've been doing everything by hand tool so far. My year 11 construction class today, it has 28 on the roll. 23 showed up today, so that room was crowded. Have had some students say that they were thinking of dropping because the class was so big. Unfortunately, they're probably going to be the better students that do that, so we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. Tomorrow, I've got 2 periods of year 9, that before and after recess one. Year 11 period 4 in here, and I've got my year 12 construction class first thing in the morning. So it's going to be a flat out day from start through to lunch. Anyway, time to go. Just finished bringing the dogs out and had a little visitor. pretty stripy looking huntsman. But it sounds like we've got a storm coming in this way. There's a bit of lightning and thunder around. Looks like I might have passed us because that seems to have moved on. It's really hot. Had Year 11 and 12 construction today. Year 12 was my before school class and they actually helped me put together the shelf. I'll show you that in a minute. Year 11 still doing their practice joints, so there's little halving joints here. They did one on the corner. I showed them how to do this one here and started cutting it, and then they're going to have a little notched one here. It's only going to go down about 10 mil. So that's what they're doing. This room is, most of the students are showing up now, so we had 22 in this workshop today, and it is crowded, but it's workable. But I'll show you the shelf. So the Year 12s helped assemble this old library shelving. And we turned the shelves around backwards, so it was going to just put stuff right across. I'm thinking of putting a backing on it to sort of help protect it. And I've got two of the shelves and just screwed them onto the ends like this so that we can actually support some sheet iron across the top, so there's a bit of a roof over it to help protect it from the weather as well. And that'll be one way that I can basically break down all these pallets and store it rather than have it lying all over the ground, because this place needs a tidy up. Bit of a rainy weekend. Rained most of yesterday. Held off today, but still ugly. Allowed me to get the weed worked front back. Started pulling up, you can see just there. Some of the bamboo runners basically came to the surface with the rain. The two pallets I had sitting down the back of the lean-to thingy, there in the back of the truck over there, so I'll take them into work tomorrow. Ran out of gas on Christmas dinner. They're getting exchanged tomorrow. While I was weed waking out the front, I saw a blacktail fly into the line. I knew straight away it was a black snake, red belly. And then later on, when I went up to rake up, raking away, look over, and there he is, coiled up in the short grass. One of the neighbours, ornithologist, went and grabbed him. We ended up getting him out safely, put him into the collection safely, like you see all the snake handlers do. And then he took him down the end of the street, down the bush, down the back little gully to let him go. It's Monday morning and I've just finished with Year 11 construction. I've forgotten to show you this, the way it's been set up. So I've got the shelves up. I've actually got it attached to the fence, so it's not going to go anywhere. Got some iron attached to the fence behind it, sort of protect it from weather. A little bit of iron on the top, again protected from weather. I'm obviously going to have to do maybe something on the front, I'm not sure, especially if I'm going to be storing timber in there. And the big long rack, you might see that it looks blocked in at the back now. So I've got some of the other old iron, the corrugated iron, and just attached it to the fence along here to stop rain blowing into it from the back. And the reason I did that is because all this construction timber here got wet up towards the other end, and because it had been sitting still, it started to go a bit yuck, like that piece that you can see there. So I've got to try and clean them off and air them out a bit, and I'll probably put a cover along the front that I can actually roll up and down or something. Something like that. And I've got a couple of pallets in the back of the ute, so I'll go get them out before heading back to the staff room. There you go, got my outdoor still rack set up. They're all these old tables are attached to the fence, and then I've got electrical conduit going in between the legs just to keep them stiff. Saves having it lying around on the ground. Staying back at school for a Year 6 information night for the parents and new students for next year. They're just about to head out from the office to walk around the school, and it's started to rain. They should be able to get here under cover, so that's all right. So I've just finished up with Year 11, still working on their joints. We've got a brand new whiteboard. My other staff member, we ordered it, it arrived, he put it up there yesterday. So my little blackboard is down the bottom. All the only joints we still need to do, or that I need to demonstrate for them to do, is a miter, which is simply on the drop saw, and the domino, and a butt joint, just so they can see how strong glue is. And then I think I need to get them more focused on their planning and their research. They've had a bit of a, I do my course this way so that they don't go, when are we going to go and do prac? When are we going to do prac? When are we going to do prac? So I get them in here, they get to do some prac, they practice things, they test out joints, they get an idea of how joints are made and what processes they can be used for, where's their best application. And we've started thinking about what they want to do in terms of their first project and started doing their folio planning. So we're in almost at the end of week 5, and this is due in week 10. So I think I'll have to try and book a few more classes in the planning rooms and the design rooms so we can get that stuff done. I think I've got them for prac tomorrow, so I think that'll be one of our second to last maybe ones in the prac room.